Welcome back to Wonderland Alcoholics. Last time in the story, Alice did a lot of growing and shrinking and defended a French mouse. Grab a snack and a blanket and let's get back into Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Chapter 3, A Caucus Race and a Long Tail. They were indeed a queer-looking party that assembled on the bank. The birds with draggled feathers, the animals with their fur clinging close to them, and all dripping wet, cross, and uncomfortable. The first question, of course, was how to get dry again. They had a consultation about this, and after a few minutes, it seemed quite natural to Alice to find herself talking familiarly with them, as if she had known them all of her life. At last the mouse, who seemed to be a person of some authority among them, called out, "Sit down, all of you, and listen to me. I'll soon make you dry enough." They all sat down at once, in a large ring with the mouse in the middle. "Ahem," said the mouse in a very important air. "Are you all ready? This is the driest thing I know. Silence all round, if you please." William the Conqueror, whose cause was favoured by the Pope, was soon submitted to by the English, who wanted leaders, and had been of late accustomed to much usurpation and conquest. Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria, "Ugh!" said the lawyer with a shiver. And even Stigand, the patriotic Archbishop of Canterbury, found it advisable. "Found what?" said the duck. "Found it," the mouse replied rather crossly. "Of course you know what it means." "I know what it means well enough, when I find a thing," said the duck. "Certainly a frog or a worm. The question is, what did the Archbishop find?" The mouse did not notice this question, but hurriedly went on. "I found it advisable to go with Edgar Atheling to meet William and offer him the crown. How are you getting on now, my dear?" it continued, turning to Alice as it spoke. "As wet as ever," said Alice in a melancholy tone. "It doesn't seem to dry me at all." "In that case," said the dodo, solemnly rising to its feet, "I move that the meeting adjourn for the immediate adoption of more energetic remedies." "Speak English," said the eaglet. "I don't know the meaning of half those long words, and what's more, I don't believe that you do either." "What I was going to say," said the dodo in an offended tone, "is that the best thing to get us dry would be a caucus race." "What is a caucus race?" said Alice. "Why," said the dodo, "it's the best way to explain it is to do it." First, it marked out a race course in a sort of circle, and then all the party were placed along the course here and there. There was no 1, 2, 3 and away, but they began running when they liked and left off when they liked, so that it was not easy to know when the race was over. However, when they had been running half an hour or so and were quite dry again, the dodo suddenly called out, "The race is over," and they all crowded round it, panting and asking, "But who has won?" This question the dodo could not answer without a great deal of thought. At last it said, "Everybody has won, and all must have prizes. But who is to give the prizes?" Quite a chorus of voices asked. "Why, she, of course," said the dodo, pointing to Alice with one finger, and the whole party at once crowded round her, calling out in a confused way, "Prizes! Prizes!" Alice had no idea what to do, and in despair she put her hand into her pocket and pulled out a box of comfits. Luckily the salt water had not got into it, and handed them round as prizes. There was exactly one apiece all round. The next thing was to eat the comfits. This caused some noise and confusion, as the large birds complained that they could not taste theirs, and the small ones choked and had to be patted on the back. However, it was over at last, and they sat down again in a ring and begged the mouse to tell them something more. "You promised to tell me your history, you know," said Alice. "Why it is you hate C and D," she added in a whisper, half afraid it would be offended again. "Mine is a long and sad tale," said the mouse, turning to Alice and sighing. "It is a long tale, certainly," said Alice, looking down with wonder at the mouse's tail. "But why do you call it sad?" And she kept on puzzling about it while the mouse was speaking, so that her idea of the tale was something like this. "Fury said to a mouse that he met in the house, 'Let us both go to law, I will prosecute you.' 'Come, I'll take no denial. We must have the trial, for really this morning I've nothing to do.' Said the mouse to the cur, 'Such a trial, dear sir, with no jury or judge would be wasting our breath. I'll be judge, I'll be jury,' said cunning old Fury. 'I'll try the whole cause and condemn you to death.'" "You are not attending," said the mouse to Alice severely. "What were you thinking of?" "I beg your pardon," said Alice very humbly. "You had got to the fifth bend, I think?" "You insult me by talking such nonsense," said the mouse, getting up and walking away. "Please come back and finish your story," Alice called after it, and the others joined in chorus. "Yes, please do." But the mouse only shook its head impatiently and walked a little quicker. "I wish I had Dinah, our cat, here," said Alice. This caused a remarkable sensation among the party. Some of the birds hurried off at once, and a canary called out in a trembling voice to its children, "Come away, my dears, it's high time you were all in bed." On various pretexts they all moved off, and Alice was soon left alone. "I wish I hadn't mentioned Dinah. Nobody seems to like her down here, and I'm sure she's the best cat in the world. Poor Alice began to cry again, for she felt very lonely and low-spirited. In a little while, however, she again heard a little pattering of footsteps in the distance, and she looked up eagerly. Chapter 4. The Rabbit Sends in a Little Bill. It was the White Rabbit trotting slowly back again and looking anxiously about as it went, as if it had lost something. Alice heard it muttering to itself, the Duchess, oh my dear paws, oh my fur and whiskers, she'll get me executed as sure as ferrets are ferrets. Where can I have dropped them, I wonder?" Alice guessed in a moment that it was looking for the fan and the pair of white kid gloves, and she very good-naturedly began hunting about for them, but they were nowhere to be seen. Everything seemed to have changed since her swim in the pool, and the great hall, with the glass table and the little door, had vanished completely. Very soon the rabbit noticed Alice and called to her in an angry voice. "Why, Marianne, what are you doing out here? Run home this moment and fetch me a pair of gloves and a fan. Quick now." "He took me for his housemaid," said Alice as she ran off. "How surprised he'll be when he finds out who I am." As she said this, she came upon a neat little house, on the door of which was a bright brass plate with the name W. Rabbit engraved upon it. She went in without knocking and hurried upstairs, in great fear lest she should meet the real Marianne and be turned out of the house before she had found the fan and gloves. By this time Alice had found her way into a tidy little room with a table in the window, and on it a fan and 2 or 3 pairs of tiny white kid gloves. She took up the fan and the pair of gloves, and she was just going to leave the room when her eyes fell upon a little bottle that stood near the looking-glass. She uncorked it and put it to her lips, saying to herself, "I do hope it'll make me grow large again, for really I'm quite tired of being such a tiny little thing." Before she had drunk half the bottle, she found her head pressing against the ceiling, and had to stoop to save her neck from being broken. She hastily put down the bottle, remarking, "That's quite enough. I hope I shan't grow any more." Alas, it was too late to wish that. She went on growing, and very soon she had to kneel down on the floor. Still she went on growing, and as a last resource, she put one arm out of the window and one foot up the chimney, and said to herself, "Now I can do no more, whatever happens. What will become of me?" Luckily for Alice, the little magic bottle had now had its full effect, and she grew no larger. After a few minutes she heard a voice outside and stopped to listen. "Marianne, Marianne," said the voice, "fetch me my gloves this moment." Then came a little pattering of feet on the stairs. Alice knew it was the rabbit coming to look for her, and she trembled till she shook the house, quite forgetting that she was now about 1,000 times as large as the rabbit, and had no reason to be afraid of it. Presently the rabbit came up to the door and tried to open it, but as the door opened inwards and Alice's elbow was pressed hard against it, that attempt proved a failure. Alice heard it say to itself, "Then I'll go round and get in at the window." "That you won't," thought Alice, and after waiting till she fancied she heard the rabbit just under the window, she suddenly spread out her hand and made a snatch in the air. She did not get a hold of anything, but she heard a little shriek and a fall and a crash of broken glass, from which she concluded that it was possible it had fallen into a cucumber frame or something of that sort. Next came an angry voice, the rabbit's. "Pat, Pat, where are you?" And then a voice she had never heard before. "Sure then, I'm here, digging for apples, your honor." "Here, come and help me out of this. Now tell me, Pat, what's in the window?" "Sure, it's an arm, your honor." "Well, it's got no business being there at any rate. Go take it away." There was a long silence after this, and Alice could only hear whispers now and then. And at last she spread out her hand again and made another snatch in the air. This time there were 2 little shrieks and more sounds of broken glass. "I wonder what they'll do next," thought Alice. "As for pulling me out of the window, I only wish that they could." She waited for some time without hearing anything more. At last came a rumbling of little cartwheels, and the sound of a good many voices all talking together. She made out the words, "Where's the other ladder? Bill's got the other. Bill! Here, Bill! Will the roof bear? Who's to go down the chimney? Nay, I shan't. You do it. Here, Bill. The master says you've got to go down the chimney." Alice drew her foot as far down the chimney as she could, and waited till she heard a little animal scratching and scrambling around the chimney, close above her. Then she gave one sharp kick, and waited to see what would happen next. The first thing she heard was a general chorus of, "There goes Bill!" Then the rabbit's voice alone, "Catch him, you, by the hedge!" Then silence and another confusion of voices, "Hold up his head! Brandy now, don't choke him! What happened to you?"
Last came a little feeble squeaking voice. "Well, I hardly know. No more, thank you. I'm better now. All I know is something comes at me like a jack-in-the-box, and up I goes like a skyrocket." After a minute or two of silence, they began moving about again, and Alice heard the rabbit say, "A barrowful will do, to begin with." A barrowful of what? thought Alice. But she had not long to doubt, for the next moment a shower of little pebbles came rattling in at the window, and some of them hit her in the face. Alice noticed with some surprise that the pebbles were turning into little cakes as they lay on the floor, and a bright idea came into her head. "If I eat one of these cakes," she thought, "it's sure to make some change in my size." So she swallowed one of the cakes, and was delighted to find that she began shrinking directly. As soon as she was small enough to get through the door, she ran out of the house, and found quite a crowd of little animals and birds waiting outside. They all made a rush at Alice the moment she appeared, but she ran off as hard as she could, and soon found herself safe in a thick wood. "The first thing I've got to do," said Alice to herself, as she wandered about in the wood, "is to grow to my right size again. And the second thing is to find my way to that lovely garden. I suppose I ought to eat or drink something or other, but the great question is, what?" Alice looked all around at the flowers and the blades of grass, but she could not see anything that looked like the right thing to eat or drink under the circumstances. There was a large mushroom growing near her, about the same height as herself. She stretched herself up on tiptoe and peeped over the hedge, and her eyes immediately met those of a large blue caterpillar that was sitting on the top, with its arms folded, quietly smoking a long hookah, and taking not the smallest notice of her or anything else.
I hope you all enjoyed chapters 3 and 4. Click over here on the left if you want to watch one of my recent videos, and click over here on the right to watch a video from Lonnie. If you don't already know her, she's really sweet and wonderful, and her videos will give you the deepest and coziest sleep ever. Bye! Have a nice day!